The text message sat on my phone screen like a slap across the face. The whole family went last week. It was amazing. Thanks for asking about it though, sweetie. Love you. Dash, mom. I stared at those words until they blurred together, my hands trembling as the full weight of betrayal crashed over me. The family vacation to the Bahamas, the one I had planned for 8 months, the one I had saved $12,000 for, working double shifts at the hospital and skipping meals to afford. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. The vacation that was supposed to be my gift to the family that had always made me feel like an afterthought. My name is Sarah Chen, and I'm a 28-year-old pediatric nurse. I've spent the last decade trying to earn my place in a family that never seemed to have room for me. My parents, David and Linda Martinez, adopted me when I was 7 after my biological parents died in a car accident. They already had 3 biological children: Marcus, 30, Jessica, 29, and Tyler, 26. No matter how hard I tried, I always felt like the spare part they'd reluctantly added to their perfect family picture. This vacation was supposed to change everything. I had announced it at Marcus's birthday dinner 6 months ago, presenting them with a carefully planned itinerary and paid reservations. I want to take the whole family to the Bahamas, I'd said, my voice shaking with nervous excitement. All expenses paid. It's my treat. The looks of surprise and grudging respect on their faces had made all those extra shifts worth it. But now, scrolling through Marcus's Instagram stories from my cramped studio apartment, I saw the truth. There they were. Mom and Dad lounging on pristine white sand, Jessica and her husband Mike snorkeling in crystal blue waters, Tyler parasailing with his girlfriend Emma, and Marcus building sandcastles with his twin boys. 5 days of family bonding, laughter, and memory-making. 5 days that happened without me. I called Marcus first, my hands shaking as I dialed. Sarah. Hey, how's it going? His voice was warm, completely oblivious. I saw your Instagram stories, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The Bahamas looked beautiful. There was a pause. Oh? Yeah, it was incredible. Mom didn't tell you we moved up the dates? No, Marcus. Mom didn't tell me anything. Another pause, longer this time. Look, Sarah, there was some confusion about the dates. Mom said you couldn't get the time off work anyway, so we decided to just go ahead with the original group. The original group? Marcus, I planned this trip. I paid for this trip. All of it. I know. And we're grateful. Really? Mom said she'd reimburse you for your portion since you couldn't come. My portion. As if I hadn't paid for every single reservation, every meal, every excursion. What about the family suite I booked? The one that sleeps 8? We upgraded a few people to couples rooms. Dad covered the difference. The casual way he said it, like it was just a minor detail, made my chest tight with rage. They had taken my gift, my grand gesture, and carved me out of it like I was a tumor. I hung up and immediately called my parents' house. Mom answered on the 3rd ring, her voice cheerful and relaxed. Sarah, honey, we were just talking about you. How was your week? Mom, I said, my voice hollow. I saw the pictures from the Bahamas. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Oh, she said finally. Marcus said he talked to you. You took the vacation I paid for and went without me. Now, honey, it's not that simple. There was a mix-up with the dates, and you know how hard it is to get everyone's schedules aligned. We couldn't miss the opportunity. What mix-up? The reservations were for this week. This exact week. Mom's voice took on that patronizing tone I knew so well. Sarah, you're being dramatic. These things happen. We'll plan another trip, okay? Maybe somewhere domestic so it's easier for everyone. I felt something break inside me, a clean snap like a bone under pressure. No, Mom. You won't. Excuse me? I said no. You won't plan another trip. You won't get the chance. I hung up before she could respond and sat in the silence of my apartment, staring at the wall where I'd hung a framed photo of all of us from last Christmas. We looked happy, unified. It had been a lie. But as I sat there, letting the full scope of their betrayal sink in, something cold and calculating began to form in my mind. They thought they could take my gift and leave me behind? They thought I would just accept their casual cruelty and move on? They were wrong. I pulled out my laptop and began to research. Private investigators, asset searches, financial records. If they wanted to play family politics, I would show them what a real game looked like. It took me 2 weeks to gather what I needed. The private investigator, a sharp-eyed woman named Detective Carol Kim, had been thorough. Dad's construction company was leveraged to the hilt, with several subcontractors claiming unpaid wages. Mom's boutique was hemorrhaging money, kept afloat only by a series of loans that were coming due. Marcus's real estate ventures were built on a foundation of creative accounting that wouldn't survive close scrutiny. Jessica's husband, Mike, had been skimming from his employer's accounts. Even Tyler, the golden boy finishing his MBA, had been cheating on his comprehensive exams. Each of them had secrets, vulnerabilities, pressure points. They had treated me like I was nothing, like I didn't matter. Now I would show them what nothing really looked like. I started with Mike, an anonymous tip to his company's internal audit department, accompanied by copies of bank statements showing unexplained deposits that coincided with client payments. Mike was fired within a week, his professional reputation destroyed. Jessica called me crying, begging for help, not knowing I was the architect of her husband's downfall. "I don't understand what we're going to do," she sobbed into the phone. "Mike says someone must have set him up. But who would do something like that?" "I'm so sorry, Jess," I said, my voice a masterpiece of false sympathy. "Sometimes bad things just happen to good people." Tyler was next. A carefully crafted email to his university's Academic Integrity Committee, along with evidence of his cheating, ended his MBA program and any hope of the corporate job he'd already accepted. When he called me, desperate and confused, I listened to him rant about how unfair life was with the patience of a therapist. "Everything was going so perfectly," he said. "Now it's all falling apart, and I don't know why." "Maybe it's the universe's way of teaching you a lesson," I suggested gently. "Sometimes we need to face consequences for our choices." Marcus proved more challenging. His real estate empire was complex, built on relationships and reputation as much as actual assets. But those relationships became liabilities when the right information reached the right people. Building inspectors, city planners, and loan officers all began asking uncomfortable questions. Deals fell through, partnerships dissolved, and Marcus's carefully constructed success began crumbling like a house of cards. "Sarah," he said when he called me at midnight, his voice raw with desperation. "Something's happening to me, to all of us. It's like someone has it out for our family. Jessica's marriage is falling apart. Tyler lost his degree, and now my business is under investigation for things I didn't even do." "That sounds terrible," I said, settling back in my chair with a cup of tea. "But I'm sure it's just a run of bad luck. These things happen." "All at the same time? To all of us?" "Sarah, this isn't coincidence. What are you suggesting?" "I don't know. Maybe someone's targeting us? Someone with a grudge?" I let the silence stretch, savoring the moment. "I can't imagine who would want to hurt your family, Marcus. You're all such good people." The final phase was the hardest, because it meant going after Mom and Dad directly. But they had started this war when they took my gift and excluded me from my own gesture of love. Dad's construction company was already vulnerable, and a few well-placed calls to his creditors accelerated the timeline for payment on his outstanding loans. Mom's boutique, meanwhile, faced a sudden rash of negative online reviews and mysterious problems with her suppliers. Within 6 weeks of their betrayal, the family that had casually discarded me was in ruins. Mike was unemployed and facing potential criminal charges. Tyler was back living with his parents, his dreams of corporate success destroyed. Marcus had lost 3 major contracts and was hemorrhaging money on legal fees. Jessica was seeing a therapist and talking about divorce. Mom and Dad were facing bankruptcy, their businesses collapsing under the weight of debts and investigations. But I wasn't finished yet. The family meeting was Mom's idea. She called me on a Tuesday evening, her voice small and broken in a way I'd never heard before. "Sarah, honey, could you come over this weekend? We need to have a family meeting. Something terrible is happening to all of us, and we need to stick together." "Of course, Mom," I said. "Family is everything." Saturday arrived gray and drizzling, the weather matching the mood of the Martinez household. I pulled up to the modest suburban home where I'd spent my teenage years, noting the foreclosure notice that had appeared on the front lawn. The irony wasn't lost on me that they were now losing the home they'd grudgingly shared with me all those years ago. Inside, the whole family had gathered in the living room that had been the site of so many Christmas mornings and birthday celebrations. The atmosphere was thick with tension and desperation. Dad sat hunched in his recliner, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 2 months. Mom perched on the edge of the couch, her hands twisted in her lap. Marcus paced by the window, his usual confidence replaced by jittery anxiety. Jessica sat crying softly while Tyler stared at the floor. "Thank you all for coming," Mom began, her voice shaking. "I know we're all going through difficult times right now, but I think it's important that we face this together, as a family." "What exactly are we facing?" I asked, settling into the chair that had always been mine, the one positioned slightly apart from the family circle. "Someone is targeting us," Marcus said, whirling around from the window. "This isn't coincidence, Sarah. Someone has systematically destroyed each of our lives over the past 2 months. Someone with access to private information, someone who knows our vulnerabilities." "That sounds paranoid, Marcus," I said calmly. "Sometimes life just throws you curveballs." "Curveballs?" Tyler exploded, jumping to his feet. "I lost my degree, my job, my entire future. Jessica's husband might go to prison. Marcus is facing bankruptcy. Mom and Dad are losing their house. These aren't curveballs, Sarah. This is warfare." The room fell silent except for Jessica's quiet sobbing. I looked around at each of their faces, these people who had shaped my life through their casual exclusions and thoughtless cruelties. They looked broken, desperate, afraid. "Good. I'm sorry you're all going through this," I said, my voice steady and calm. "But I have to ask, why are you looking at me?" "Because you're the only one who hasn't been affected," Dad said quietly, speaking for the first time since I'd arrived. His voice was hoarse, defeated. "Everyone in this family has lost something except you. Maybe I'm just lucky. Or maybe you're behind this," Marcus said, his voice rising. "Maybe you've been systematically destroying us because of some perceived slight." "Perceived slight?" I stood up slowly, letting my calm mask slip for the first time. "Is that what you call taking my gift and excluding me from it?" The room went dead. Quiet. Mom's face went white. "Sarah," she said carefully, "the vacation, that was just a misunderstanding." "Was it?" I pulled out my phone and began reading from my notes. "Flight confirmations for 8 people to Nassau, booked and paid for by Sarah Chen. Resort reservations for the presidential family suite, paid for by Sarah Chen. Excursion bookings, restaurant reservations, car rentals, all paid for by Sarah Chen. $12,000 of my money for a family vacation that the family took without me. There were complications with the dates, Mom started. No. My voice cut through the air like a blade. There were no complications. You decided I didn't deserve to be included in the gift I gave you. You took my money, my planning, my gesture of love, and you cut me out like I was nothing, like I've always been nothing to you. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the recognition dawning on their faces, the understanding that their casual cruelty had consequences they never imagined. So yes, I continued, walking slowly around the room like a prosecutor addressing a jury. I am behind this. Every investigation, every audit, every revelation of the skeletons in your closets. I hired a private investigator to dig into your lives the same way you dug me out of mine. Mike was stealing from his company long before I reported it. Tyler was cheating on his exams long before I exposed it. Marcus's business practices were questionable long before I brought them to light. I didn't create your problems. I just made sure they saw the light of day. You destroyed our family, Jessica whispered, her face streaked with tears. I didn't destroy it, I replied. I revealed it. This family was never real. It was a performance, and I was tired of being the understudy in my own life. Marcus stepped toward me, his hands clenched into fists. You vindictive. Careful, Marcus, I said, not backing down. You might want to think about your next words very carefully. After all, I know things about you that your wife doesn't. Things that might be very interesting to her and her divorce attorney. He stopped cold, the blood draining from his face. This is what you wanted, isn't it? I looked around the room at each of them. A family meeting where everyone finally tells the truth? Well, here's mine. I spent 21 years trying to earn your love, your respect, your simple acknowledgement that I belonged here. And you showed me exactly what I was worth when you took my gift and left me behind. Sarah, please. Mom stood up, reaching toward me. We can fix this. We can make it right. I stepped back from her outstretched hand. No, Mom. You can't. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not interested in what you're offering. Dad cleared his throat, his voice barely above a whisper. What do you want from us? The question I'd been waiting for. The moment when they finally understood that I held all the cards. Nothing, I said. Simply, I want absolutely nothing from any of you. I don't want your apologies, your explanations, or your attempts to make amends. I want you to live with the consequences of your choices, just like I've lived with the consequences of being the unwanted daughter for 21 years. But we're family, Tyler said desperately. This is our family. I laughed, a sound as cold and bitter as January wind. No, Tyler. You're a family. I'm just someone who used to live here. I walked toward the door, then paused and turned back. By the way, I said conversationally, the bankruptcy proceedings for Dad's company will conclude next week. Mom's boutique has about 3 weeks before the creditors call in the loans. Marcus, your real estate license hearing is scheduled for next month, and given the evidence they have, I'd suggest finding a new career. Jessica, the divorce papers Mike's attorney filed yesterday cite irreconcilable differences, but we both know it's about the criminal charges he's facing. And Tyler, the community college has a decent business program if you're interested in starting over. Their stunned faces stared back at me, finally understanding the full scope of what I'd done. How did you, Marcus started, know all of this? The same way I knew you'd all be perfectly happy to take my money and leave me behind. I paid attention. I always paid attention, hoping someday you'd pay attention to me. I opened the front door, feeling the cold rain on my face. Goodbye, Martinez family. Enjoy the rest of your lives. I walked out of that house and didn't look back. 6 months later, I was living in Seattle, working at a prestigious children's hospital and renting a beautiful apartment with a view of the Sound. I'd used my savings account, the one that would have funded future family gifts, to start fresh in a city where no one knew my history. I made new friends, real friends who valued me for who I was, rather than tolerating me out of obligation. The Martinez family had scattered like leaves in a storm. Mom and Dad moved to a small apartment across town after losing the house. Marcus took a job selling cars, his real estate license revoked permanently. Jessica divorced Mike and moved back in with their parents with her 2 kids. Tyler enlisted in the Army, finally finding the structure and purpose his life had lacked. Mike served 18 months in minimum security prison. They tried to contact me, of course. Emails, letters, phone calls that went straight to voicemail. Mom even tried to friend me on Facebook with a new account. But I'd meant what I said that rainy Saturday afternoon. I wanted nothing from them. I did, however, take one small pleasure in sending them a postcard from my own vacation to the Bahamas the following year. Just a simple message. Weather's beautiful. Wish you were here. Sarah. It was petty, perhaps, but after a lifetime of being treated as an afterthought, I thought I'd earned the right to one moment of petty satisfaction. The truth is, revenge doesn't fix the hurt. It doesn't heal the wounds or undo the years of feeling like you don't belong, but it does something else, something maybe more important. It gives you back your power. It reminds you that you don't have to accept other people's assessment of your worth. You can write your own story, even if it means burning down the old one. I learned that I didn't need their love or approval to be complete. I didn't need their family to have a family. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones you're trying hardest to love. Now, when people ask about my family, I tell them I'm building my own. One authentic relationship at a time, with people who choose to include me not out of obligation, but out of genuine affection. It's smaller than the family I was born into, but it's real in a way that the Martinez family never was. Sometimes late at night, I wonder if I went too far, if my revenge was disproportionate to their crime. But then I remember that text message, the casual cruelty of it, the way they dismissed my gesture of love like it was nothing. I remember all the birthdays where I felt invisible, all the family photos where I stood slightly apart, all the conversations that stopped when I entered the room. And I remember that I'm finally free. The family that went to the Bahamas without me doesn't exist anymore, but the woman who learned to value herself enough to walk away, she's thriving.